The purpose of this presentation is to continue a previous discussion on critiquing literature. In particular, we'll focus on the detailed reading of the literature and how to examine claims and evidence to warrant argument formation. Remember that pleasure reading and scholarly reading are different endeavors. Scholarly reading entails reading for a purpose, and so we don't have to read every sentence. In fact, when you identify a scholarly source, you should do a quick read. Look at the title and the abstract, skim the body and the references, and try to identify what the purpose is and what the main points are, and whether it's relevant to your work. Based on your quick read, you make a judgment. Does the piece warrant further analysis? If it does, then you do a more longer, in-depth read. Remember, however, that different sections may warrant longer time and more consideration than others. As you skim the table of contents and beginning sections of a book, for example, you might only read particular sections that most closely align with your research. The same is true with articles. You may not read much of the introduction, keeping that as skim material, and focus more attention on the results and the conclusion sections. As the results make sense and tie back to the literature, you may look at the references for additional readings. So how do you determine the quality of the evidence and arguments made in a scholarly piece? In the late 1950s, Stephen Tolman said that every argument or claim was supported by evidence in a series of data. That evidence also used warrants or supports to provide a link between the evidence and the claim. Thus, in examining the claims and the evidence made in a scholarly source, we can determine the quality of that source. Here's an example of a claim with evidence and warrants. Pause the video and see if you can identify each aspect of the claim. Now that you've taken a few seconds to read the paragraph, the claim should be clear. Feelings of isolation leads to increased attrition. The author uses various assertions to warrant that claim. But notice that there is very little evidence or data to support the warrants and the claim. In this slide, the paragraph has been rewritten using fictitious authors to support the warrants and assertions of the claim. Now we have a series of evidence that has been organized to help provide support for the claim being made. However, as a reader, we have to determine whether that support is sufficient to really warrant the claim. Since we likely don't have time to read all of these sources at this point, this is an instance where perusing the references is so key. We need to determine quickly whether these sources are sufficiently credible to warrant those claims. Journal quality, timeliness, relevance, all of those play a factor in making this determination. While using literature is a common way to support claims, and one that you will use in this class as you develop your literature review, it's not the only way. Here I've rewritten the paragraph so that some kind of experimental design was used to also support the claims made. Yet this evidence also needs to be critiqued. How effective was the study? Was the design set up well? Was it robust? Did it account for other alternative explanations? As these slides demonstrate, there are different types of claims, and each of the claims needs to be critiqued for its strength. Claims of fact are those that can be proven true or false, but most claims are based on values, judgments of worth, what should occur, definitions of ideas based on other sources, or interpretation, showing how the data or the evidence should be organized to make sense of those arguments and warrants. As you examine claims, evidence, and warrants in the articles that you examine, make sure to also ascertain their quality. Are they relevant to the topic? Are they timely? Are they clearly written? Are their supports strong? Does it really bear out what they want to say? Or are they making a lot of assumptions that aren't supported? Often, scholarly works and your literature review will include this as well, rely on complex claims where a main claim is supported by several interim claims, all with their associated evidence, warrants, and support. And you need to be able to distinguish those and identify whether they're quality claims or not. Now keep in mind that no research study is perfect. They all have flaws, and so you aren't looking for the perfect article to support your ideas, but you want to critique them. You want to identify their strengths, and you want to identify their limitations, because those limitations may be the things that help set up your study and why it's necessary. In that sense, the purpose of a critique is in part to reverse engineer an outline. What did the author use to establish their claims? How effective was that outline? Did it do the things it was supposed to do? And where are the holes?